Hello guys, welcome back. This is Professor Roldan with Explorations in Math, and we're going to do section 6.6 today, which is our graphing section. Okay, so we've reached the end of our unit, and we're going to go ahead and do a couple things here that are not in the workbook. And the workbook is only basically graphing, but I would like to add some more foundational concepts to our lesson. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start with graphing or plotting points, and knowing things about the Cartesian coordinate system. And then we're going to do we're going to graph using a table. We're going to create a table and graph using x and y intercepts. And after that, we'll do slope and then the slope-intercept form. All right, so let's take a look at what we're going to be doing. So this is 6.6. Okay. And we're going to go over Cartesian coordinate system. We're going to do plotting points. We're going to graph plotting points in a table. We're going to, that's our first method, and our second method, graphing using x and y intercepts. Then we're going to do slope, and then we're going to do slope-intercept form. Okay, so the only thing that's in your workbook is going to be basically this one, and that's basically it. Okay, maybe this one. Okay, it just depends on what type of method you use. So we're going to go ahead and start with just a quick review of Cartesian coordinate system and plotting points. Okay, so first of all, we have our plane here. So we have the y-axis up here and the x-axis down here. So basically, those are just two number lines. One's a vertical number line, the other one's a horizontal number line, and they're put together, which makes 4 quadrants. So this is quadrant 1. And what makes this one special is that the coordinates x comma y. So the x is going to go first, the y is going to go second. So the signs in quadrant 1 will be positive for the x and positive for the y. Then quadrant 2, we're going to go counterclockwise. Okay, so quadrant 1, quadrant 2 here, then we have So what's special about this is we're on the left side of the x-axis, so that's going to be negative for x's, and we're still on the top side for the y, so that's positive. And then we have quadrant 3, which both of our x and y's are negative. And then we have quadrant 4, where our x is positive, but our y, since we're below the x-axis, is negative, okay? So negative, positive, negative, positive. Okay, actually let me do that in a different color. Okay, hopefully you remember this stuff. And now we have this origin right here in the middle. And the coordinate for that would be 0, 0. Okay, that's neither. It's not in any quadrant, and it's on both the x and y axis. Alright, so then we just do a few points here. So we can do 7, 4, and negative 2, 4. So 7, 4 is going to be, they're both positive, so that's going to be quadrant 1. And that's going to be 7 for the y, and I'm sorry, 7 for the x and 4 for the y. So that's right there. It's point A. And negative 4, 2 would be negative for the x and positive for the y, so it'll be like right there. Okay. Let's do point C, which would be 0, negative 5, and point D, which is going to be negative 1, negative 1. So 0, negative 5 will be 0 for x, negative 5 for y. And then negative 1, 1 would be like around right there. Okay? In the third quadrant. Alright, so that's just some basic stuff here. Now we're going to be graphing lines by plotting points, just like we've just done, but we're going to be using an equation to come up with the x and the y. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and use the workbook to answer some of these questions. So workbook number 1 is y equals 2x plus 4. And so we're going to create a table. We're going to calculate the y right here. We're going to choose our x's on the left. And then we're going to put those together for our ordered pair that go together. And we can plot those over here. Okay, so all you really need is 3 points in a table. We'll do a few extra. Oops. Okay, so I want to cover the whole spectrum of our plane with the left side, the middle, and the right side. Okay, so the left side will be these two, the middle will be 0, and the right side of our picture will be the positive numbers. so 2 times negative 2 plus 4, that's going to equal 4 plus 4, sorry, negative 4 plus 4, which is 0. So that means we have negative 2 and 0 for y. Okay, this is 0. So I'm going to put that right here. 2 times negative 1 plus 4 is going to be negative 2 plus 4, and that's going to be, so our x is negative 1, and then so this right here is going to be positive 2. Right there. Put in the 0. And 0 plus 4, so that's going to be 0 for x and 4 for y. And then positive 1. It's going to be 2 plus 4, which is 6. And then put the 2 in there. And we have 4 plus 4, which is 8. Okay. All right, so this can be the same. Now, when if it asks you for 3, you can just do these 3 right here. The left, the middle, the right of our x-axis, so we can get a full picture. You can put more points if you want, but we'll just do these 5. So this, as you can see, this goes up to about 8, so we're going to do 10 up here. And negative 10 down here. 10 here, and negative 10 over here. So we're just going to estimate, okay? So the first point we're going to do is negative 2, 0. So it's about right here. Second point is negative 1, 2, which is about right here. 0, 4, 1, 6, 2, 8. And then you just connect the dots, put your 2 arrows, and we're done. Okay, so obviously this is not ideal to use because it takes a lot of work, a lot of steps, a lot of places you can make a mistake. So this is kind of our last resort. If you're not sure, if you get stuck, go blank as far as graphing with the shortcut, then you want to go ahead and just plot points or pick your x's, calculate your y's, and plot those points. Okay, and then this applies to any equation in any math course. Okay, we're going to do the third section, our third objective, which is to graph using x and y intercepts. Actually, this is our fourth objective, but our third section. So this is section C, and this concept here, intercepts. All right, x and y intercepts. So remember that an x-intercept is basically where it intercepts or intersects the x-axis. Okay, so it doesn't matter what, it's some number x, all right? But the y, notice that the y is, if you go over here, that is 0 for y. Okay, so it's always going to be 0 for y. That is a definition of x-intercept. Vice versa, if you look at the y-axis, doesn't matter where it is, let's say it's up here, that's some number y, but notice that the x coordinate is 0. Okay, that is always going to be the case. So basically, to find an x-intercept, so set y equal to 0 and solve for x. Okay. Vice versa, to find a y-intercept, set x equal to 0 and solve for y. Okay? So we're going to do the workbook question number 4. Okay? Because it's basically, number 4 is basically in this format. Okay? The x and y are on the same side. This is called standard form. And this is great for x and y intercepts. Okay, it's like a perfect setup when you see it like this. Okay, so number 4 looks like this. It says 2x plus 4y equals 12. So you can see the x and y are on the same side, and you have a number c, which is on the right side, 12. So basically, to find the x-intercept, we're going to remember that we're finding that x when y is 0. Okay, so all we're going to do is say, okay, what is this x if my y is 0? So anything times 0 is 0, that goes away, because 0 is nothing. So it brings down basically this guy here. And really you're just solving the 2x equals the 12. That's it. So you're going to divide both sides by 2. And get x equals 6. Okay, so now we know what the x is. It's 6 when y is 0. That's 1 point. All we need is the other one, and we can connect the dots and make it and graph our linear equation. So the y-intercept trying to find out what is the y when x is 0. So we're going to put the 0 right there. And 0 times anything is 0, so it's gone, leaving you with just 4y equals 12. And then we divide both sides by 4. And you can see y equals 3. So that means x is 0, y is 3. We have 2 points. And all we're going to do is come over here and graph them. Okay, so let me just say that this method, you can probably find these intercepts in your head using mental math. If you basically cover up one of the terms. So let's say if I wanted to find the x-intercept, I will cover up this and just solve 2x equals 12. So in your head you're saying 2 times 6 is 12, so that means my x-intercept is 6. Okay? So technically you could do these without really doing any work. Y-intercept, I want to find this y. This is 0, so all you're thinking is 4 times what is 12, and that's 3. And so you can just quickly do 6 for y times 6 for x. And, well, let me do this. 3 for that one. 6 for x. And you just connect the dots. Okay? So, when you see it like this is a great way to quickly find two intercepts and graph them on the line. I'll graph them and make a straight line. Okay, so if you want to apply this for workbook numbers 5, 6, and let's see, 11, and 14. Okay? Okay, so go ahead and try to do number 14. Number 14 looks like this, which is 2x plus 2y plus 2. It's almost in the good format. So let me give you a hint to get you started here. So you want to get this y to the other side. You want to move him over here, so we have to subtract them. And so we're going to get, you can't subtract those two terms, they're not like. So he's just on the left side, negative. Okay, so this is our equation in standard form. And all you got to do is find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So see how you do. See you in a few minutes. Okay, we're back, and here is the graph. And basically, for the x-intercept, I knew that the y term would be gone because it's multiplied by 0. So I just wrote down 2x, that's the x term, equals the number on the right. So 2 times 1 is 2. And over here, did the vice versa. Left out the x term, just wrote the y term equals the right side, and that's -1 if you divide both sides by -2. So basically, you just put -1 here, you put +1 there, connect the dots, and we're done. And that's it. So now we're going to take a look at slope and the shortcut formula, the slope-intercept. Okay, so for slope, slope is basically the steepness of a line. Okay, so steepness. So what am I saying? So a line can look flat like this. Okay. It could be slightly steep like this. Okay, just think about if you're trying to go up a hill, and then very, very steep, you're not going to be able to walk, or you're going to have to climb. Okay? So the numbers in this ratio we call slope is going to determine how steep this is, or if it's steep at all. Okay? Because flat, there's no steepness here. Okay? The slope is 0. Here, this is like a fraction. And then very steep will be, so fractions basically are in between 0 and 1. This one is like that, and steep would be anything greater than 1. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, those numbers will make it very, very steep. Okay, and if you put negatives, it's just going to make it go in the other direction. All right, so that's just a quick little summary, so let's just write down the equation. So slope equals, and here is the equation for it. This is how you calculate it between 2 points. And what we're doing is we're calculating the difference in y's. Those are vertical numbers. That's a vertical change. So we're calculating how much is it rising. If it rises a lot versus how much we run, it's going to be very steep. Okay. And then the bottom, we're finding the difference between the two x's, the two x coordinates, and that's going to be our run. If it runs a lot more than it rises, then it's going to see it's very, very slight steepness. Okay, so it helps to just see the numbers as we calculate. All right, so let's take a look at some examples in the book because there are none in your workbook. And so we're going to do, let's see, textbook number 69. And that is find the slope between 5, 1, 5, 1, and 8, 8. So slope is going to equal, now notice that the equation wants us to subtract the y's and then subtract the x's in the same order. So here is y2, that's my second point. Here's y1, that's my first point. So it's going to be 8 minus 1 and then my x2 is right here, and here's my x1. Okay, so those two we're going to subtract. 8 minus 5, and we have 7 over 3. So as you can see, we are rising more than we are running. So that's greater than 1. That's an improper fraction, so that's going to be very steep. Okay. Okay. What about number 70? -6 and -4, 9. All right, so why don't you try this one on your own and check your answer in a few minutes. Okay, so you should have gotten 3 over -2. Okay. So when we do our graph, we will put this negative with the 3. Whoops. So that we can go down 3 and over 2. Okay? So we'll be doing that in just a minute. So this line actually would look like this. Okay? So that brings us to the 4 types of slopes that we can have as an answer. Okay, so we can have our line go up the hill like this. Okay? Or we can have it go down the hill like this from left to right. So that's because this is a positive slope. And this is a negative slope. Okay? And then we can talk about what if it has no steepness, like we mentioned before, it's just kind of flat, like the floor. So this one has slope is 0. There is no steepness. Okay? Now there's one more situation that is straight up and down. So slope of 0 is horizontal, and then if you have a line going like this, that is there's no number for this. This is called undefined. Okay? So notice the difference between 0 and undefined, big difference. Okay? Actually, we can relate these to some equations, and so basically this is going to look like y equals mx plus b, right? And this one is going to look like negative mx plus b. This one is going to be y equals some number. And this one's going to look like x equals some number. Okay? So that's just to give you the equations for those 4. Now let's go ahead and talk about the y equals mx plus b in more detail. Alright, so let's take a look at this slope-intercept form that we mentioned. And it's basically y equals m times x plus b. And this m represents our slope, which we know is our rise over run. So ideally, we want to see a fraction there, because that's going to tell us whether we're going to go up or down, depending if it's positive or negative, and then run is always to the right. Okay? And then this guy, he is our y-intercept. And that is, we already know x is 0, but this time y is a letter b. Okay? And it comes from the equation y equals mx plus b. Alright, so knowing that, let's go ahead and do number 2 in your workbook. So it is negative 3x minus 3. Okay, so basically this is telling us that the slope, or basically that m, okay, so there's the m and there's the b. So slope is m, and this is 3. But we want the fraction form, so we can see rise and run. So this is actually negative 3 over 1. And this guy here is our y-intercept, which is 0, negative 3. Okay? So we can use those two pieces of information to graph. So let's go over here and just do a quick estimate. And say, okay, so we're going to start, when you graph, you want to start here. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3. That's negative 3. Okay? And then we're going to, since this is negative, we're going to go down 3, and we're going to run to the right 1 unit. So from here, we're going to go up, we're going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to go 1 to the right, which is right there. After we get that, you can basically connect the dots. Okay? So this is on the y-axis, you start and then you move down and to over 1. Okay? So this is number 2. Let's try number 3. So go ahead and do number 3 on your own. Okay, so this is number 3. Slope is 5 over 1. The b is -4, so that is a y-intercept of -4. So we start at the -4, go up 5 over 1, plot the next point, connect the dots, and that is it. Okay, so now we have, I want to do workbook numbers 8 and 9. Okay? Because 8 and 9 are basically horizontal and vertical lines. So remember, from the top, actually we can go back to that page right here. Okay? When the equation is by itself, just a variable with just a number, no x, y with just a number, that is no slope, I mean 0 slope, so it's flat or horizontal line. And then if the x is by itself with just a number, it's a vertical line. Okay? So y equals some number, so that looks like this. Vertical lines are x equals some number, and they look like this. Okay, so number 8 is x equals 3, which means we go to x equals 3, 1, 2, 3, plot, and draw a vertical line. Okay, don't try to draw a horizontal line. And then number 9 says y equals 8. So we go to y equals 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Plot, and remember, it is a horizontal line. So this is, slope is undefined. And this one, slope is 0. Okay, that's why the x is missing. All right, that's it for this lesson. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions, and we'll see you in the next video.